going to challenge myself and film in the next few days about my daily life in the Netherlands. You've all heard about the Dutch weather, bicycles, Dutch directness, but how does a daily life look like here? This is something, if I were to move to the Netherlands, I'd be very much interested in. So I'm gonna show it to you. Let's go! I'm on my way to do groceries, so I will show you how it looks like here. I live next to two supermarkets, Albert Heijn and Lidl. I noticed that people first go to Lidl because it's cheaper, and then whatever they didn't find in Lidl, they go to Albert Heijn for. When I just moved here, most of the supermarkets had cashiers, and now, as you can see, there is only one, and the rest are the machines. In general, I would say that I noticed this trend here that human interaction is getting reduced. We order food by scanning a QR code, and even in some places, robots bring us food. Another thing that is very typical for the Netherlands is when the sun is out, everyone drops whatever they're doing and is getting out to enjoy the sun because we know that it's not gonna last. I was now ordering something in a Dutch cafe, and Dutch people speak English really well, but there is a flip side to it, because if you are trying to learn Dutch, they will most likely reply in English to you. They usually have the best intention at heart, and I suspect that one of the main reasons is just, hey, it's more efficient if I speak English, because most likely if you are trying to learn Dutch and you're speaking to a Dutch person, their level of English would be much better than your level of Dutch. So they think like, hey, just more efficient for everyone if we stick to English. But of course, I can also imagine that it can be very demotivating and discouraging for someone who is trying to learn Dutch. In the Netherlands, cafes and stores don't work 24/7. And depending on where you're from, you might find it shocking, or you might be already used to it. So the Dutch learn to plan around it. So, for example, if you want to buy a shampoo, maybe you need to leave work a little bit early to get to the store on time. I'm from Moscow, so at first for me that was not something that I was used to. Moscow never sleeps. In Moscow you can buy anything at pretty much any time of the day or night. But now, after 8 years of living in the Netherlands, that became something that is completely normal for me. Also in the Netherlands we have something that is called koopavond. It's basically a day or an evening where stores work a little bit later, typically until 9 p.m.
Vrijdag tot 9 uur.
So people usually plan to do shopping and to buy things that evening of the week. Usually it's Thursday, but in Eindhoven, in the city where I live, it's Friday. On this note, I want to add something about the system and the Dutch. Culture is not very flexible, and that's not something bad or good, that's just how it is. For example, if somewhere else you might be 1 or 2 minutes late, so the store closed at 6, but now you're at the store and it's 6:05, and you know exactly what you need, the store assistant will likely let you in. But it's not how it works in the Netherlands. They'll tell you it's 5 minutes post the closing time, so no, it's not possible, we can't let you in. And of course I understand the reasons behind it. First, the kassa might be already closed, so they're just not able to accept the payment. And secondly, it's of course the working time of a person, so here it's treated very seriously, and the Dutch completely understand it. But again, depending on where you're from, you might find it a bit too strict. But that's just how it is here, and at some point you will get used to it. On the note of shopping, a lot of stores in Eindhoven and other cities in the Netherlands got closed. Some stores went bankrupt, like Scotch and Soda. For some, I think it's no longer financially viable. Probably the rents they pay outweigh the profits, so they closed physical stores and decided to focus on online shopping instead. I don't know about you, but if I know my size at that brand, I prefer to buy online. But I hate buying a few different sizes to see which one fits and then pack one back and send it. It's definitely not a matter of life and death, but it just adds a hurdle for me. What about you? Do you prefer to buy online, or nothing can replace a real shopping experience for you? Another point that I want to highlight is that the Dutch don't seem to smoke as much as some other nations. And in general, the Dutch are quite healthy, probably also because they cycle quite a lot. What else? Just in general, like culture of going to the gym, of exercising, cycling. Not overeating, but drinking a lot of beer. This is a huge beer here. Can you see it? And there as well. Oh, hello. And something that is very specific to Eindhoven is these streets, Stratum Zijnd, with a lot of bars. A lot of students party here, well, and not only students. Even on Thursday evening, you can find a lot of people partying here. Now it's Friday, 7 p.m. and you see that the party is getting started. The Netherlands is known for its balanced approach, and it's seen in pretty much everything. It's not typical for the Dutch to put a lot of effort in their work, in a sense that they try to do their job as best as possible, but they would not pull extra hours to get something done. And the reason for it is because they prioritize their time with family, friends, their hobbies, so they really have this work-life balance. Another sphere where it's also seen is the Dutch service. The Dutch do just the bare minimum. It's always like goed genoeg, so it's good enough, but they would not go above and beyond to please you with their service. So it's not the culture where people would hustle to get this extra euro, because as I said before, the priorities are just very different. But to be fair, it's also because the Netherlands is a pretty wealthy country, and people generally don't need to hustle.
And they have to pay a lot of tax if they do hustle.
Yeah.
So it's in the end not worth it.
Yeah, that's also a good point. Like if they hustle and if they earn extra, they go to the higher tax bracket, and then they pay a lot of more tax. Then in the end it might not be worth it. It's super hot today in the Netherlands. It's plus 30. So we went downstairs to have a bit of a cake and escape the warmth in the apartment, because Dutch apartments are not made for the heat. You can't really stay inside because it's so stuffy and it feels like there is no air. And for those of you who are thinking, yeah, why don't you get an AC? Well, in the cafes, it's not really that common to have an AC. And even if they have it, I don't think they really use it. And on top of that, if you want to install an AC in your apartment, there is a special noise regulation about that. In some apartments, it's not possible to install an AC at all. Well, actually, what I wanted to talk to you is something else. It's about integration. So the Dutch are not the easiest nation to get integrated in. That's why there is a very separate community of expats and the Dutch. And I think it's partially for two reasons. Number one reason is Dutch language. A lot of expats come here and they're not so willing to learn Dutch because the Dutch typically speak English really well. And those of us who actually want to learn Dutch and make an effort, as I mentioned before, it can be quite demotivating when a Dutch person switches back to English.
They won't speak English, so what's the problem?
Dutch people would typically already have their group of friends who are most likely Dutch. And then it's a bit challenging to add one English-speaking person in, because then the whole group would have to switch to English just for this person. I read in the comments that their English is fine, but it's not as advanced, or they're not as comfortable into talk about some personal topics in English. Another reason why it might be a bit challenging to integrate into Dutch culture is because the Dutch typically already have their group of friends and they're not necessarily looking for more friends. With this group of friends, the Dutch would typically already have appointments a few months in advance, so their schedule is already fairly packed. Expats in turn might find it offensive and sort of rude if a Dutch person goes like, yeah, I'd really love to meet you, but are you available in 3 months from now? This might create some friction and misunderstanding, which is of course something that is hard to build a friendship on. Also, how some of the Dutch might see it is that an expat is someone who is in the country temporary, and they're not sure how much to invest into this relationship, because what if this person is going to leave in a year? This overall makes the integration process a little bit more difficult. I talk more about it in this video where I ask the Dutch people how they see expats, and I ask experts how they feel in the Netherlands. You can watch it somewhere here if you're interested. For now, thank you so much for watching this video until the end. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Instagram, and I'll see you either there or in one of these videos. Bye for now.